Okay. Well, welcome to the Suicide Monk, and my name is Britton. And today we have Camryn Sullivan. She's going to tell her story. She's got a profound, an interesting life so far that's compelling. And she's in the mental health field and wants to help people and take her suffering and make it into something that's more beautiful than what she's experienced and help people. And so she wants to share her story today to hopefully have people relate with her and you know just feel comfortable and at peace with the things that they suffer with too. So
Hello.
welcome, Camryn.
Just want to say,
Why don't you introduce yourself
okay,
and tell me a
well,
little
I
bit
just
about
want to
yourself?
say, first and foremost, I am so honored and privileged to be here. I'm super inspired by your story, Britton, and I think you're such an intelligent human being, and your story has completely helped rewire my brain just within. I just recently met you, but it has already helped me in many dramatic ways, and I'm very lucky to be here and super excited to be able to speak with you today. But yes, hi, I'm Camryn Sullivan. Yeah, of course.
Well, thank you.
I'm Camryn Sullivan. I'm 22 years old, and I have experienced suicidal ideation since I was 9 years old. I'm a survivor of suicide loss in my family and of my own personal attempt. And I've been sharing my journey of recovery online for about 6 years now and share my life lessons with everyone as
Okay,
I'm
where
doing
are
that
you doing that?
on
Where are you sharing
Instagram,
that at?
YouTube, most social media platforms, but I would say Instagram and YouTube have been the most prominent within, and I've stayed the most consistent on. On my Instagram's Camryn Mary, and my YouTube is the same. And then also, I work on the team of a company called Self Cares for Everyone, where we normalize these conversations as well. And I've been with them for about 3 years now. And yeah, I'm super happy to be here.
Nice. Great. So what was it you said about 9 years old? What was it then that kind of made the switch? Was there trauma
Yeah.
there? Was there, like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what was your
So,
situation at that time?
um, I learned about suicide in a very dramatic and traumatic way when I was 9 years old. And interesting enough, tomorrow will be the 14-year anniversary of it. And it may sound silly, but it's still super difficult for me to talk about. But that pain that I still feel 14 years later, of course, has caused me so much pain, and maybe was the catalyst behind how I've experienced ideation for 14 years as well. But also, we'll talk more about it later. I do think that's also feeling that grief for so long after is also the catalyst on why I think I'm still here. So we can get more into that later. But 9 years old, I lost a family member due to suicide. Should I just tell the story? Should we start from the top there? Or?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It's your story. Like, so yeah, please. I mean,
It's
we're all affected
yeah,
by the things that happen in our lives in profound ways, and we all deal with it differently. So that's what makes your story unique. But it also is
yeah,
relatable for other people. So that's
yeah.
the
It's
power of
still
that.
super hard to tell. So my apologies if I don't speak the most eloquently here. Um, it still weirdly feels fresh, if you
No,
understand
you're
what I
fine.
mean. But okay, so
Mm-hmm.
this family member of mine was such a rock in my life, and one of the most confusing parts of it was the happiest person I knew. He really held the family together, such a sunshine of a human being. Everyone that knew him never had anything negative to say. Such the personification of light, and definitely was that in my life. And so he was struggling on and off of depression for about 2 years. And of course, at my age of 9 years old, I didn't know what that meant. I just slowly saw the person that I saw as my light in my life become more distant and almost aggravating. I hate to say that, but it was aggravating for me to witness. And, slowly he started, canceling plans with me or disappearing while we were hanging out and treating me differently. And that was super confusing for me to see at such a young age. And one morning he came to me after about a year or two. My vision is still, these memories are blurry because not only was I, so young,
Sure.
it's also, hard to even look back on or think about. But he
Right.
came to me one
Yeah.
morning, I guess 14 years ago tomorrow, and all of a sudden his aura and his presence was the complete opposite of what he was giving off, the person that I knew of for, the year before that. And I was extremely confused. He came to me, of course, now I know, was in that manic state, that almost exciting state that he knew what he was going to do. He was feeling that sense of relief, and he wanted to come to me and sorry, it's still hard to talk about.
No, you're
Okay,
totally fine,
he
and I
wanted to
get it.
come to me and talk to me, and little did I know he was trying to have his last conversation with me. And I was extremely aggravated, and I was extremely upset to see this switch in him. And also, it was really early in the morning, and I was tired, and I didn't, I didn't want someone coming up to me with so much energy, especially when I haven't seen that energy in him for so long. And something that's hard for me to look back at is I was an extremely happy and positive child. I never showed much anger. I never showed too many tantrums or negativity or pessimism as a kid. I was a very, very positive, optimistic kid. And so it's somewhat within my grief journey confusing and aggravating how the moment I first displayed anger was in this moment. But I was feeling pretty angry and confused. And he was, trying to hug me and trying to talk to me and engage with me in his last moments that I was unaware of. And I completely had a pretty extreme outburst saying, what are you doing? Can you please leave? Leave me alone. Trying to like push him off of me. He was trying to cuddle with me. And I was having short patience with him. And so, he was going into the kitchen trying to have his last meal. And I was screaming at him, probably very just overstimulated, and letting all of that anger out onto him. And wait, I might need to take some breaks. I'm so sorry. But he came back up to me, and I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. 1 second.
You're fine. You tell your story. You tell your story. Just relax, breathe. You're fine. You're okay.
He came back up to me, and of course, with guilt, there comes a lot of anger, and where my anger comes from still to this day is that this conversation he was having, he wasn't really cutting around the edge. He was being very open to me about, it was very clear with the conversation he was having with me on what he was about to do, but I was 9 years old and I couldn't comprehend that. So there was no way I could have stopped it. And so within my grief process, of course, it's very aggravating. I'm like, I was so young, I didn't know what was going on. But if this was a conversation he could have had with, one of my other family members, it could have been stopped. But with me, I didn't know. And he was being very clear to me and saying things, just saying, I hope you remember me. His name was Pap. And he's like, I hope you remember me as the happy Pap, the one before all of this, the depression that came upon me. I hope you have those good memories of me. I hope you remember me that way. And I have a tattoo of that now to remember. But kind of just giving all the signals, all the correct signals that I live my life now to promote the signals that someone is showing before they take their life, and showing them all clear as day to me. And I still, as he was telling me all of those things, was pushing him away and screaming at him to get out and leave me. And he listened to me, and I watched him as he started just to walk away and open up the door. And he kind of just looked at me and kind of maybe just waiting for one last, maybe sweet moment with someone that he loved, but I couldn't give that to him. And I watched him go downstairs to where he then would take his life. And then following that, it's a bit of a blur what happened within the next hour. But my parents woke up and they knew he had tried to attempt in the past, and they sort of had a feeling they couldn't find him. They didn't know where he was, but he had made a promise with them to never do it in front of the kids, and never do it in the house. And if he were to go through with another attempt, and so my parents, thinking they were doing the right decision, sent me to sent me downstairs to where he was living with us at the time, and it sent me down to his room. And it feels weird to talk about because I wasn't able to say the word suicide out loud until 5 years ago, and I've been struggling with this since I was 9, and no one knew. None of my friends, none of the people I was closest to knew about this story until only a couple years ago. So it still feels like, fresh to talk about. I don't talk about it much. So it's interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gathering that. Well, and these are the tough things. I mean, it is. I know what you're going through right now. Up until March of this year, I suffered my aunt's death. She was this wonderful woman, and we buried her on my birthday when I was 10. And that really sent me into a spin when I was at a young age. But I suffered with that for 44 years. And this year, on my birthday when I was supposed to take my life, I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's nobody that loves her more than I do besides her mom. I get to spend every year with her. I get to celebrate her every year because she shares my birthday. I had it's still like real, that's raw for me. So I understand, but it's raw in a different way now.
Yeah.
And it's not the same as what you went through.
No,
don't let me diminish that, because your experience with this is much different than mine.
Don't worry. That feels good to hear, though, because I think this might be society's voice getting into me, but I do feel silly sometimes. I talk about this loss or talk about him so much. I don't talk about the story. But people are like, oh, like how recent, thinking it's like 2 years ago with the way I talk about it. I'm like, oh, like 14. And they're like, oh, okay. But I also find that beautiful.
So that's why do you find that beautiful?
I find it beautiful because that it's fresh for me, because I think it's new that I find it beautiful. I think for a while I found it opposite of that. I found that debilitating and devastating, just because, especially when I was going through, I think the hardest part of my ideation, where I would say about like 4 or 5 years ago, when I wasn't yet recovering. I'm in the stage of recovering from it. I still struggle with ideation, but I'm wanting to get better. I am finding life. I'm finding purpose. I'm not wanting that anymore. But when I was wanting it, it was hard because, it felt unmotivating that for so long this was still affecting me. But I think as I was recovering, I find it beautiful because I'm privileged within my journey, because I have people that love me so much, and I love so much. And I know, seeing death firsthand and experiencing the death of a loved one and seeing how it does truly affect them that long, really, I think, saved me. I think that pain became such a big asset for me, because, everyone, when they struggle with this, they feel like a burden to the extent where they don't feel loved. They don't feel that they have that connection to where people will care. They think they'll get over it after time. But this person in my family that I love so much, I was 9 years old, and so I didn't get to grow that deep of a connection. There's not much depth you can really have in a connection with a 9-year-old, you know, but it was deep enough to affect that person for the rest of their life, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a difficult conversation. Yeah.
But that's a deep connection.
It's a difficult conversation to have, and it can branch off into so many different ways. But
Sure.
I just find it beautiful where it motivates me to not put that pain onto other people. The difficult conversation to have is speaking about if it's a selfish act or not. Within my recovery process, I go back and forth. I think for a while, saying that it wasn't a selfish act helped me heal and helped me forgive him. It was hard to believe it wasn't a selfish act when I fully related to him and fully got to step in his shoes and see why he did. I didn't want to think it was a selfish act because I wanted to do it myself. So I, refused to believe that it was. Right. As I'm healing, I realized that it is absolutely understandable to have that anger and believe it was selfish. I'm happy, he is at peace, but I think it's like a tough love. Sorry, I'm getting really off topic, but okay.
You're doing fine.
It's a tough love thing that I think works best with me, because while I was experiencing my ideation growing up, I think what worked best for me, I heard it all from everyone. And I think what hurt maybe the most were people that told me, we won't be angry at you. We just want you to feel peace. I had people that were saying, we won't be mad. We won't be upset. We just want you to do what makes you feel best. And I think them giving me that freedom, they thought they were doing a service for me and understanding me and being careful with me. But I think what works best for me is that tough love of people really saying, do not do that to me. Like, you don't want to hear that in the moment. You don't want to hear how you feel selfish by them taking your experience and kind of turning it into theirs and saying, you're going to hurt me, you're going to do this is going to affect me for the rest of my life. I didn't want to hear that, but now it does.
So that works for you.
It does, because I think the way it really works for me is because I've experienced it firsthand, to where I know it does affect you for the rest of your life. And it really, I can't do that to anybody. I really don't want to. Of course, I go into, when you're in that mindset and you go into that deep depression where you,
it's a dark,
and it's hard
place
to think about others. It really is. And I go back and forth, Yeah.
It's damn near impossible.
Yeah, definitely when been in those places in the past, it's been hard to really, I will say it is a selfish mindset you go into. It's unintentional. It's not like you can control that. But it's hard for me to think about how, my mom would have felt. It's hard for me to think about how my best friend would have felt. So I'm not pressing blame on my family member, and I'm not, I'm working on not being angry, because I know you truly just cannot think about anything else. Your brain cannot wire properly or work properly in that moment. But I don't know. I think it's beautiful, still feeling this grief 14 years later, because it just makes me realize how serious it is. It's a, the saying, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, but that problem becomes, just everyone else's that I love. And I feel privileged to have people that I love that much to where that's my reason. But yeah, sorry, I just got really off topic.
No, you didn't. That's what, don't discount what you're saying. It's important, because the feelings behind the thing that shaped you are just as important. And you have a different perspective than I do. Like, guilt doesn't do anything to me. I'm like, You think I haven't thought about it? You think I don't know that I'm going to hurt you? Why do you
Yeah.
think I'm telling you? So you can understand that you can have the opportunity to say goodbye. Well, even that is very
Yeah.
hard on people. I don't understand why, because
Yeah.
I live in this every day.
Yeah.
They do not.
Yeah.
So it becomes a very difficult topic. No matter how you slice the pie, it's people are afraid, and they're afraid of it, and we're afraid of death in this society. And it's unfortunate that you had to deal and go, well, not necessarily deal, but go through that at
Yeah.
such a young age. Did you have support in this? Like how so let's back up now. And you were told to go
Yeah.
downstairs by your parents.
Yeah. So I was told to go downstairs by my parents because they had made a previous promise with him that he would not do it inside the house. And so they were looking out for my best interests. And so as they
Right.
went to go search around, they sent me down there where his room was. Turns out, I'll keep this as light as possible. Turns out that he went through with it there. So I was the one to find him. And after that, it is a huge blur, of course. But
Sure.
it's traumatizing because in many ways, but traumatizing because it was in the middle of all of my toys. So in like my playroom. And so I was very confused. This was the first time I think was introduced to death in general. I think I had a very filtered childhood. It's hard to talk about my childhood trauma because
Sure.
other than this, I mean, after this, it's different. But before this, I think I'm lucky for how my childhood was. You know, I had a pretty stable family before this. I had a pretty good life. But that night, of course, me dealing with all of this confusion and fear and discomfort and not being able to wrap my mind around what just happened. I think what kind of got the ball rolling for the rest of my life is how someone explained it to me. That night, as I was asking questions, was telling me sometimes that is the only way sad people can be happy again. And when I was 9 years old, I took that very seriously. And so as I was dealing with this grief, I started identifying my emotions as, oh, I am sad now. I am not happy. I'm confused by the world now. So is that what sad people do then? So I started dealing with ideation around there. I will say it took a second because I was in shock. I was in shock for a while. I got into therapy at 9 years old, and I started to become a lot more shy and introverted, and it didn't fully hit me, and I didn't fully start to act on ideation or fully learn more about it until I was around 11 or 12. But yeah, about the support question, it's difficult because I don't want to sit here and I don't know. I feel you're going to hear me say the word privilege a lot because I do feel privileged within my journey and my healing of my journey with suicide, because I think it could have been worse. And I don't want to invalidate my story also by saying that, but it could, because
yeah, because you could have been given more along the path, but you learned what you needed to learn the way you learned it. So yeah, don't invalidate what your story, because your story is important. Again, like how you're shaped is very, very important, and that will be more apparent as things progress for you and as you get older and your wisdom grows, and you'll be like, oh that's that was important.
But with the support, it was difficult because I didn't grow up. We've talked about this. I didn't grow up with many friends. I did have some. I don't want to sit here and be like I had no friends. I had some friends, didn't hang out with them much. I was mainly spent my life just very chronically online. That was where I had my connections and my friends. I didn't have much outlets outside of that except my family. But my family, I'm not the only one that was going through this grief. This was a family member, and I have a family outside of this person as well. And so everyone in my family, I think, had their different ways of grieving and different vices and different ways of going about it. And it was hard to find comfort because everyone was trying to find it themselves. And so I was so young, and I had to start to, I think, learn how to deal with it myself. And it was also, it was difficult because at first, what I look back at now and also just see in my life now, something that has stayed kind of apparent is it feels weird to talk about. Hold on. We might need to take a break. Can I take a breather? Is it okay? Okay.
Absolutely.
Might need to just, whew.
Yeah.
It's still hard to talk about. I think now that we've gotten that part over with, it'll be a little easier. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I promise you, if we were talking about anything else.
All right. Okay. You don't need to apologize to me. I promise you. You're fine. Okay. You are totally fine. Like, you're not upsetting my balance at all, honey. You're
okay. Good. Okay. All right.
I walk here. You're fine. I'm with you. You got it. You're
okay. Okay.
You're okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Just breathe. You're good. Okay. Just breathe. Just a few in through the nose and a few out through the mouth. Just take some deep breaths. You're good. Just meld into your story. Relax into your spirit. Close your eyes for a second.
All right. Okay. Where were we? What was the question? I think I got lost in the question. I might have sidetracked a little.
Well, I mean, we just really started back at your experience with going downstairs and that, and then we melded into the support system and how that played out for you, and then you came into just kind of having to kind of deal with that on your own, and that's when that ideation kind of started, and counseling and stuff like that. So.
And it was
really about your support system at this point, and where so you can pick up from kind of
and there. I think with me being my support system for a while, and I'm not holding any grudge, by the way, with my family in this aspect, because it must be so hard to be grieving this and, also having to be there for your kids as well. I have 2 other siblings, and so it was a lot. But I didn't have much optimism surrounding me, and I've always ever since I was a kid, I've always been a very optimistic child, and still am. That's who I am at my core. I'm like the very annoying, like character in a movie trope that is just sunshine rainbows, kind of naive to the realities of the world, but that was now presented with this very dark subplot in a way. And it's inevitable that when you go through trauma, you lose yourself in a bit. But me losing myself also meant I lost the only really optimistic influence I had, which was my own self and my own personality and my own advantage of being able to pick myself up. So losing that was very confusing. And then also being able to communicate what I was going through was very hard on my family because it was triggering for them. And so it was kind of a forbidden topic in the house. So I suppressed a lot of these emotions and didn't really allow them to come out until I was a teenager. And so that's where I'm so sorry. I'm having a really hard time speaking right now. I'm so sorry.
You're so fine. You're getting lost in the story.
I know.
You're totally fine. You're don't. Okay. You're totally fine. What are you nervous about?
I'm nervous about speaking. Like, this isn't just my story. I think it's also my family's story, and I'm nervous for them to listen. And I'm nervous just saying it because I've told the story that I started off with before. I've had to, repeat it a bunch of times in therapy to be able to finally come to terms with it. But moving forward, I haven't ever really, it's like I'm processing this alongside of you right now. I'm finally like speaking about it right now for the first time. So I'm like, oh wait, this happened, I forgot this. So it's very, it's scary, but it's needed. It's just very difficult.
It is very difficult. Do you want to take a break? Do you want to just turn off the recorder and just kind of sit here and breathe for a second? I mean, so one of the things I find is, do you do like meditation?
I do sometimes. That? I'm trying to get better at it, but
okay. So I'll make meditation really, really simple for you, and it will send you into places that you've never been before. Pick a focus word. Mine is be still. It used to be still and know that I'm God, and then it just kind of is like, be still, just be still, breathe. And then I start compartmentalizing all the monkeys that are jumping in my head. I'm like, you go to your hole, you go to your hole, you go to your, like, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, the relationships, the mom, the dad, you all go to your little spaces. Because I need to focus right now. I need to breathe, and I start to breathe. I start in through my mouth, or in through my nose and out through my mouth, and that's it. And I'm like, every time there's intrusive thought, I'm like, just be still, just be still. So I've learned to do that, and I do that in high stress situations like traffic. Traffic is a hard one for me. So I've practiced that over the years, and now I'm calm. Now I'm like, go around. You're good. You want to flip me off? Fine. I got 2 of those too. That's neat. Like, I don't care anymore. So it's all about just calming your spirit and melding into who you are. Because you're having a lot of emotions come flooding at you, and a lot of memories, a lot of visuals. You're entering back into this time that traumatized you and sent you down a difficult
I think
road.
It's easier for me. I've yet to really, through my advocacy work, I've talked about this once before, and it was in an edited video that I probably had to record like 5 times. Other than that, I'm so used to being able to speak about this in a hopeful way, and I guess it's such a scary thing to be extra transparent. I think I've always had to sugarcoat everything and make it seem like it isn't that big of a deal through my advocacy work, just to, provide more of a sense of hope and try to not trigger anybody. I haven't ever wanted to get too deep. So I guess me being so deep right now is a little alarming. I feel like there's alarms going off in my brain being like, oh, don't say that. Like, act like everything's okay. So it's tricky. It's easier for me to talk about the good stuff, as I guess it is for everyone, but
sure. Do you have shoes on right now?
I do not.
Okay. Stay connected, stay grounded. You're good. It is a scary place to be. Once you learn to tell your story well, it's your most powerful asset. So
I need to hear that. I think that I think I got the hard part, over with in a way. I think I might. So tricky, but I think the next part, I'm trying to, find all the right words for it, as I haven't fully processed it myself. The years after that, I think what I've been solely focusing on the past couple of years have been healing that 9-year-old self in me. And I don't know if I have yet gotten to, 14-year-old me yet. So it's difficult to speak on their behalf, that version of me's behalf, because I'm still haven't worked with their emotions and read them and noticed exactly what they were going through yet, because it's been such a journey to heal that first instance. But it's interesting because I've always found comfort in being open by, I don't want to say romanticizing, but I guess so. Romanticizing survival and
It is.
speaking on how
Mm-hmm.
I've overcome. I want to tell the story. I want to keep it short and be like, oh, so I lost someone, but hey, here's what happened afterwards. It's hard to sit here and be so honest about, actually, here's how, like, the work that got me to that point to be able, because, it's not, that isn't me fully masking with that optimism and positivity. I think that is who I am, and that is how I Raleigh see my story. I find optimism in it. But it's hard to speak about it, and I want to be honest when I'm telling the story, but I've never spoken about it in such a way where I don't immediately jump to the point. And I think this is a healing way. This is the healthy way to actually talk about it. I think I find that issue within myself. I suppress a little too much, and I'm nervous that people might see my advocacy in that way where, speaking about this subject isn't all about overcoming, and the beauty of recovery healing is a very difficult and uncomfortable topic. And so I tried learning how to balance them both is really hard, because I want to honor both voices. I have one of the most annoyingly optimistic voices in my head, and then one of the most annoyingly pessimistic voices in my head. And, trying to make them make amends and be best friends is a daily goal of mine. But it's
So you feel like they're in opposition? Is that what you're saying?
I think they're best friends that have a secret hatred for each other. Does that make sense? I feel like those two.
So a jealousy between the two.
Yeah, I think that the optimistic voice is overpowering to the point where it can benefit for me, but it's also invalidating. It can invalidate myself. It can make me feel like myself. When I feel.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because I think I know. I think I see it.
It's invalidating because, as you can probably tell, I haven't processed much. It's 14 years and I haven't processed much, because I have had that overpoweringly optimistic mindset, and I can't sit here and say that's a facade, because that is who I am, and I want to stay true to myself, and staying true to myself is being that optimistic little girl and catering towards that inner child in me, that 9-year-old me, and finding her and bringing her back inside of me. But truth is that 9-year-old went through something very horrific, and it's difficult to honor that while losing that optimistic voice in the process. So then I just suppress. I suppress and I suppress and I suppress. And that's what I'm currently, I think, the stage of healing I'm working on, is letting that voice, that contrast, speak a little louder, and not let it be invalidated, and not let it see as a burden, but also not letting it overpower, if that makes sense. I want it to power, but not overpower.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to find the power in it, because it is your story again. Like, my story does not change. My narrative changes.
Yeah. I think that's and
I don't have to be perfect.
That's definitely one of my favorite conversations to have, because, obviously I'm still very much struggling, and this isn't me, demolishing that fact. But I think we got into this conversation a little bit last time I talked to you, but this isn't me fully playing into the saying that, your trauma happened to you for a reason, or it made you stronger. I do think I believe in that to some aspect, but I truly do believe that my trauma and the consistent trauma I have gone through within my life has worked to my advantage, because I truly,
You have no idea yet how powerful it's made you.
yeah, well, I think I
You have no
I
idea
think I have
yet,
a
my friend.
taste. I think I have a taste into it, because I do
Yeah,
not think
I think
things
you do
can
too.
I don't think things can, next to the average person, I do not think things can get to me as much. I think once you've seen that darkness, you really, things that most people would overlook, I see as the most exciting and exuberant thing on the face of the planet. I think I get the same euphoria as someone graduating from college as I do when I make a new friend. I think almost not being here,
Agreed.
almost not being here has allowed me to fully see success in a different way. We can get into the conversation about how I see success is so subjective. And so I see the smallest things as so successful in my life currently. And me being here, I truly get to celebrate every single day that I am here and every day that I'm alive, and not just the good things as well. If I'm having a shitty day, if something terrible happens to me, and if I get to feel the emotion of anger, I get excited, because there was a moment where I couldn't feel that at all. I couldn't feel anything but a state
Yes.
of numbness. And then also,
What? So
sorry.
no. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
It's the delay,
Oh,
but
okay. I love having back and forth conversation, by the way. It helps. But I think I could only feel a state of numbness for so long, and then also I was living every day begging for a state of nothing, to not be here anymore, to not feel anymore. So the fact that I even get to feel, no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what comes my way, my existence, I see, is so plentiful despite my circumstances. I always say that. No matter what my circumstances are.
you know what that is?
What?
That's death to self. When I've had enough, I will die to those feelings. So that's kind of what's happening. That's why you're coming out of that you, because you had some disassociation, right? So I want to talk a little bit about your attempts.
Yeah.
We're not going to go backwards from here. We're just going to have conversation, and we're gonna. So I want to talk about your attempts and why you thought that was the best answer. Number one, I think that's really important, because I think that there's very, very similar feelings surrounding that, and that's what the people that I've talked to. Okay, so I would like to know what your thought process was around that, and when you go to those places, because how what were some of your attempts? Why did you attempt this? Why did you attempt to take your life? What was surrounding that? It's not just that your uncle took his, it was that you had some profound verbiage, was that when, if you're not happy, this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the way to be happy again.
Yeah.
So there's that profound message as a young lady, as a young girl,
Yeah.
that says, if life gets too hard, you just quit. And then you've got this profound inner soul that says, but what if I hurt the people that I love?
Yeah.
And how have you navigated that? So, because you've come out of a place of darkness, not totally out of it,
Yeah.
but a place of disassociation, because that's what happens when people call it selfish, but it's, life is so horrific and tormenting that you have to shut off everything. Like, you can't take another moment of negativity, and that's all you understand.
Yeah.
And So how are you starting to rework that and navigate that? I know I've asked a lot of questions,
You're good.
but I think you're an intelligent woman and you can answer all those
Thank
questions.
you. I
So
might be, don't
talk to
overestimate
me.
me. I might need, some reminders.
No, you got this.
um,
Just talk to me. You had some
yeah,
attempts. Talk to me about those.
yeah. So, of course, there's many factors. There's never one sole reason why someone would
Right.
go through with that. And they are a little spaced out. But I will say the main ones were as I got older, and I've been dealing with this ideation since I was 9 years old, I lost a lot of hope with that grieving process for how long it was taking. In my eyes, it was taking a long time. I also just, suicide prevention was not a topic in my life. Suicide was, not suicide prevention. Mental health
Right.
was not, the conversation around it wasn't normalized. It, in contrast to how it used to be to how it is now, of course, we're gaining more of insight and it's being normalized more online. But within my own personal life, I grew up in the South. There wasn't many progressive conversations going on. And then within my family, it was such a taboo subject. So it
Yes.
wasn't, it just, there wasn't space for me to feel what I needed to feel. I think I was working through all of this internally and I was tired. I think that sums it up. I was very, very tired. And my first attempt that resulted in me going to the hospital, I was in high school and I was struggling being in the closet and I didn't have many friends. So many factors playing into this. And then of course that guilt that I really held on to since I was 9 years old. I did fully believe that I was responsible, even though through my recovery process, I very much learned that I had
Right.
no
Yeah.
play in it. But holding that guilt, I think I grew up, I think, with the same guilt of someone that murdered someone. I truly believed growing up that that was who I was and what I did.
Yes.
And still to this day,
That's honestly that's kind of the impression I got as you were telling me about that, was that you feel so responsible even still,
I'll say,
and maybe not fully the way that you used to,
yeah,
but it's still not gone.
yeah, I'll say when I started to prove myself wrong with that and realize it wasn't me is when I started experiencing it really deeply myself, because I was lucky enough to be able to open up to people that I trusted and go to my mom and tell her how I was struggling. And, it like I said, a very taboo subject in my family. So it wasn't very spoken about.
When did you go to your mom?
I went to my mom at first when I was around 14 years old. And this trauma was still very fresh because this was her dad that passed away.
Yes, yeah. You're not going to downplay your mom. It's a very difficult thing
Yes.
to.
Okay.
Suicide's a very difficult
Yeah.
thing. So
I went to her.
it's her father. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. You had pain from that. That's
yeah.
okay.
But the way it was handled when I first went was a bit of a lash out, a bit of a, like, well, we're sending you straight to the hospital if you bring up this word again. So it was I kind of steered clear from bringing that up again. And I kept it to myself. I really had never spoke about this topic until I went into therapy at 16 years old, about a month before my first attempt. And I got to...
I'm sorry, what age? I missed that. What age? 14?
14, I went to my mom, and then my first attempt when I went through with it, I had ideation, growing up, but my first actual attempt that was planned was 16 years old. But okay. With the guilt thing and no longer feeling responsible, I was lucky enough by 16 when I opened up to my mom about it, and my few friends I had in high school, being able to slowly open up and leave some hints. I really at this age, I didn't want to fully tell them what was going on because I didn't want anyone to disrupt my plan. I didn't want to be like, hey, this is what I'm about to do. This is what I'm doing. But they could sense that there was struggling going on. And I had great support. And I think even after my attempts that led me to go to the hospital, that ideation still stayed. It didn't just leave because I, was discharged from the hospital. And so the support that I was getting from these people, I was really so lucky to have that. But the moment I realized that it wasn't my fault for what happened when I was 9 years old, is that support went in one ear and out the other. There's nothing that they could have said or they could have done to make me not want to do what I wanted to do. And with that and experiencing that, I realized, okay, wait. So there's nothing I could have done or said, especially, again, emphasizing at 9 years old, or just in general for anyone, that you really, that guilt is something you cannot hold on to yourself, because when someone has this in mind, they're about to do it, there's really nothing much that could stop them. It is their decision at the end of the day.
It's funny. And I would imagine that you've experienced this, whether recognized or not, but there's always a blockade. Something interferes.
Yeah.
That's why we're still here.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that have fully come to terms with in the past year or two, is I think I threw around some credit a lot. I had an issue with giving people the platform of saying, oh, you saved my life from the support, or the support that you were giving me through this time. And in a sense, yes, they helped. They helped. Did they save my life? No. But I'm learning how to credit myself. And that's where I think I find my most self-love. Of course, I'm a 22-year-old girl. I struggle with self-love, as most people do. But where I find my self-love and where I find feeling accomplished in myself is, I feel like that blockade for me was somehow always myself in the moment. It's an interesting conversation that I'm still trying to wrap my head around, because I don't think there were moments where I really wanted to die, but when that moment was about to happen, there's some type of, I always say what saved my life fully is myself and my curiosity. I was born with so much curiosity. I have so much curiosity. And that always kept me from fully being able to go through with it. I tried to, and it didn't work. But after that, there was something that always stopped, and it was a what if question. My obsession.
Well, I think that I think that's a really great statement. Honestly, I think that's exactly what saved my life.
Really?
Is I threw the Hail Mary. Let's see if this is what it is.
Yeah.
Let's take it. And what do I have to lose? It was curiosity.
Yeah. It's interesting because that curiosity.
So I think that's a beautiful statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Whenever people ask what saved my life, I always say curiosity, because truly, but it's interesting, those what if questions, like what if this happens? What if that? There's also the opposite of that, which played into my ideation in the first place, is what if my future is like this? Or what if this happens? Those anxious thoughts. So they contradict each other. But I think giving myself that tough love, I think I had to be really hard on myself and be like, it's almost egotistical of me to think I know what happens next. It's very naive of me to think that change is inevitable. So much change has happened to the point where it's very overwhelming, but it's inevitable. It's naive of me to think that this is how it's going to be forever. Yes, I, might not have the best proof because I've experienced this for so long, so it feels a little hopeless. But within those 14 years, I've also had so much change. I've had so much healing and growth and recovery, and it's consistently happening no matter how slow the pace is going. It's going, it doesn't matter about the speed.
Well, and that's a beautiful statement right there. Is yes, it's been hard over 14 years. It's been hard over 44 years, but it didn't come without change.
Yeah.
It didn't come without profound wisdom learned from suffering. It didn't come without this beautiful ebb and flow. And that's why I'm like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thankful for everything that I ever went
Mm-hmm.
through.
Me
Oh my
too.
gosh, it shaped me in a way that even though I couldn't see it at the time,
Yeah.
it shaped me into this incredible
Yeah.
person that I'm able to be patient now. I'm able to step back. I'm able to be loving. I'm able to create space. I'm able to, like, there's so much to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, it just keeps unfolding. I'm like, this is really, really cool.
Yeah. And it
And
gets,
like, what, yeah, what a
yeah,
privilege.
truly. People might look at me like I have two heads when I say that, but I do think that my pain is a privilege of mine because I don't think I would want to be
It
someone
is.
else. It is deteriorating at times because I look at people who are I do feel behind in a sense of society's view of how you're supposed to be at this age. I could feel behind, and there are moments where I do succumb to that and believe that. But I the way I view life now and the way I go about my life, I might not be on the traditional path. I think in a sense I did lose many years of my life and my childhood. I couldn't go to high school. I had to be
Did, did you,
What'd you say?
did you lose it?
Lose what?
Did you lose it?
Lose what?
Those many years of your life?
No. Okay. Trust me, I know. I know. I know. In a traditional way, yes. In a traditional way where I was unable to go to college because of my mental health. I was in and out of high school. I had to do my classes from online and my room, and my teachers had to come visit me because, I didn't get that prom. I didn't too scared to be in those relationships and stuff like that. So in a sense, compared to people my age, I feel like, I missed out and on some things. I missed out on some things, but I think the path I'm going on, I think or the path I went on, I feel privileged to do so because honestly, I look at my friends and people my age metaphorically killing themselves over the fear of, getting an A on
Yes.
this test in college. And that's what's, driving them right now. And that's what's driving their anxiety and their pain. And they see it as so important. And what I see as important right now in my life is, oh my God, I'm here another day. If I get an F on this test, or if I'm in a fight with my
Yes.
friend, thank God, you know what? I'm just here. I'm here to experience. I'm here to live. And I see that as beautiful. And I just wish that mindset set on everyone. And it's interesting though, because I had to go through so much to get to that. And, it feels weird when I say, no, I'm actually very glad I did, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And some days, in many ways, of course, it's broken me in many ways that it's not fun, of course.
For
But I think
sure.
it's made me, I don't want to know myself
But
before, I don't want to know myself if I didn't go through this. I really am glad.
a freaking
Yeah.
man right there.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful, beautiful statement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
I really enjoy the way
If I didn't go this, what's that?
I'm very grateful for the way I can see the world now after almost losing it, Yeah. I think that's a part of me that I'm still just trying to heal from, is just because I really do think I'm on a great track. I think I am healing the best I ever have been, but you know,
Do you fear that now? Spontaneity?
not as much as I used to. I had a fear that I was like, I used to always think, oh, life could be going well, but I know myself and I know if another trauma were to happen right now, I feel like that would pop up. But I have been presented with more recent trauma, and that hasn't happened. And that in many instances hasn't been a thought that kind of popped up. So I feel more secure in that. But the ideation's still there. It's just no plans, no urges. So
Right. It's that haunting feeling that's kind of harboring itself within inside
yeah.
you. And we're trying to contain that in a way that doesn't bleed out
Mm-hmm.
to a point of what you're talking
Yeah.
about. And that's the spontaneity.
Yeah.
I felt that for a long time. I don't have that anymore, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I'm proud of you.
Like, well, it's not. Excuse me.
Bless you.
So, but I don't even have the ideation.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times what I learn is never forget where you came from. Never forget who you are. Never forget, you don't have to live it every day, Britton. You don't have to be suicidal anymore. You don't have to. And that's what I tried to hold on to. I was like so afraid of letting go of this suicide ideology because I was afraid I wouldn't relate. Now it's like this distant smoke, and I'm like this really thin distant smoke with graphics in it that says suicide, and I'm like, that's kind of a joke. Like, that's just a metaphor, because I have this beautiful, giving, loving, caring, nurturing, healing spirit that is just fucking awesome, and I love it.
Is it a
I don't mean to be graphic, but I'm just like, what's
Is
that?
it a little scary now having this new regained mindset of just not experiencing?
I thought it was going to be. I resisted it. Yeah, I resisted it. And then I was like, Britton, your faith says that. And I'm sorry, we'll go back to my faith. I asked myself, I was like, did Jesus love himself? I'm like, well, fuck yeah, he loved himself. He's like, well, Britton, why wouldn't I love you that much? I'm like, okay, I can understand that. Why wouldn't you love yourself that much? Why wouldn't you just love yourself? People call it ego. The church calls it ego. Society calls it ego. I'm like, I actually like who I am. Yeah. I'm a really like, when I look at my spirit, when I say, Britton, who are you? I'm kind, I'm generous, I'm formidable, I'm caring, I'm protective, like, I'm not a pervert. Like, there's so many great freaking things about who I've become, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't you love that? Yeah. I'm like, well, I do. Well, what's the problem with that, Britton? Well, nothing, because those are all good qualities. I'm like, oh shit. And then the next question is, well, with all those good qualities, what will you do with them? Well, I'm going to give them to people. Every single one of them. And I'm going to show them who they are. And it's like, oh, fuck. Like, you just became, you now just entered into on the narrow road. Yeah. Because that's loving people. That's not judging people. That's loving people. And you're going to take a beating. And you're going to get hurt. I'm okay with that. You know, suicide is a thought that comes into my brain at least every day, but that it's kind of tricky to say because it's not wanting to take my life. It's a part of my job. I'm a suicide prevention advocate. So the thought kind of lingers along with me, but you know, I've overcome the want to die, I would say about a year ago. You know, there isn't that want anymore. Or honestly, maybe 2. It was on and off for a second, but for about a year now, I've been clean of that urge. But I'll say it had to have been one of the hardest transitions to adapt into this new mindset of not falling back on that possibility or falling back on that escape. I think relearning myself and meeting myself again, or honestly, like, it feels like meeting myself for the first time, because when I had this ideation, I was 9 years old. I wasn't able to fully grow into who I am and who I'm supposed to be. So I've been doing that. And I've also been, you know, experiencing emotions for my first time and learning how to handle them in non-destructive ways. So although it's so exciting, it's also just such a confusing and overwhelming journey of, you know, I'm feeling anger for my first time. This is really weird. How do I manage anger? So now I'm having to figure out how to navigate emotions for my first time in ways that are healthy. And it feels like I'm human. It's so alien. It feels like I've gone onto this new planet of, hey, there's like a future ahead of me. So let's, you know, figure out life now. It's so beautiful and it's so exciting, and it's overwhelming though, in good ways and bad ways. But it's definitely a
interesting process. I think in some moments it can be more painful than the moments where I was so set on death and so focused on trauma. I think life and wanting to live is also such a probably even more painful, because now I have to actually, I have to do it. I have to learn how to live. I have to.
But yeah, sorry. But now you have to learn. Now you have to learn how to live.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. It's very interesting, and it's exciting though, and it's fun.
Do you find that more difficult?
Yeah. I find it more difficult. I find it contradicts itself. It's the most exciting thing ever, and I'm super just relieved, and it's
right.
just a huge exhale, but then it's kind of like a hyperventilating. It's like I'm exhaling, but then I'm like, it's confusing.
So no, you're onto something. You're onto something. That is the beauty.
Yeah.
Because the reaction, the normal reaction, is to feel that anxious. And what I found is, and this is with advice from friends, is learn how to be the observer. When you learn how to observe the unfolding of the life that's coming before you, and you do that with joy, you learn how to have faith that things are going to unfold in your favor, and that you're valuable, and that you're loved that much, and that you're worth that much, and that the things that you've suffered and that you're bringing to the table, and as you unfold in your spirit, those are valuable things that teach you to be this patient and really just a beautiful person. And you find yourself more loving and more caring and more patient and more just across the board. Love exudes from your spirit, even in the midst of this tumultuous time. And that's really like you're rowing that boat right now, is what I should say.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really special. I think that's beautiful. I think that's rare. I think that's a narrow, narrow road.
Yeah. And I think it's fun because, like our conversation we had before, where this has kind of worked in our advantage in a sense, is I don't think I have or ever will feel the stress as if I need to find a bigger purpose for my life, or I have this big goal or dream of mine that I need to work towards, or that I don't feel successful enough. Because although sometimes I might feel a little behind in life, since I feel like I missed out a lot from, trauma, I think it is the most successful thing someone can do to save their own life and still be here. And I see it as such an advantage for me. And so now all I have to do, like, I really once thought that the easy way out was to, go through with my plans, but
yeah,
I didn't realize how easy it is once you've gained that mindset that anything I do from here on out, if I go and eat a meal with a friend, I see that as so successful. I see just every day. It sounds cliche. It really does. It sounds cliche, but
well, it does, but you also walk to the edge of your life.
Yeah.
So cliche is not really cliche. It's like real. Like when you walk to the edge, when you lean over the edge and you get pulled back away from it, anybody that's attempted will tell you that everything becomes special. Yeah. Everything becomes more beautiful. Some things are harder, but most things are more beautiful.
Yeah. It's freeing just to know my only job now is just to live. Like, I really, I don't care much about, it might sound honestly depressing for some people to see that I have no other bigger dreams. They may see that as...
You will.
What'd you say?
You will. You'll have bigger dreams.
Yeah, and maybe I will. But for right now, I think, it might sound a little weird to someone and depressing that my biggest dream is to just keep living, to exist, to, not just exist, but to live. But I see that as so exciting and so
It's
calming and
beautiful.
beautiful, and nothing really can reach me or bring me back to like a dark point as it once did. Now that I
So that's society saying that you have to be something, you have to make money, you have to, I mean, and that's the whole thing. We're so caught up in money, and
yeah,
it's just like, you know what? I'm the worst off that I've ever been. Again, I told you that. Like, I'm the poorest I've ever been, and I'm the happiest
yeah,
I've ever been in my life, because I don't think I'll always be here. But man, what a privilege to be able to experience
exactly.
it, because some people don't even get to experience being poor and being broken and having their car put them in the red. I mean, that's life.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of life. Is it's not that I get upset about it. It's that I get to have joy in the fact that I know it's going to work out
Yeah,
one way or the other. I'm in the red. I'm not intentionally in the red. I'm not blowing my money every month. I haven't been in the red in 20 years. This is actually really interesting to watch.
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, this is a different kind of suffering that I haven't really experienced in 20 years. So I'm at the bottom of the barrel,
mhm,
and I'm okay. I'm good. I like it,
yeah,
and it's not always going to be this way, and I know that, and so why not enjoy it?
yeah,
Why be pissed off about it?
right.
Why be upset? Why go into depression? Why feel like I got to kill myself?
Mhm.
Man, because that's exactly where I
Yeah,
was,
yeah. Uh,
and I don't have to live there
a
anymore.
cliche little saying that I used to always say when I was first starting to recover. I actually look for my younger self for advice a lot because I've been documenting my recovery for a while. So I have, receipts of what I used to think and back when I was 16 or 17 when I was first trying to start to get better. And younger me would always say that living anything is better than not living at all, or experiencing anything is better than not experiencing at all. And I really live by that. So I'm letting go of that
What's
fear of
true?
what my future is. I think that plays a big part in everybody's journey. I might be wrong, but that fear of the future of, wanting something bigger and better for yourself, and those expectations and pressures you put on yourself to be something bigger than yourself. And I don't feel that anymore, and that's such a huge relief. Having different expectations on myself, and it sounds like I'm settling for less, but in my eyes it's settling for more when I once didn't want to be here at all. That's a good goal for me to have. But you're right with saying,
That is the
yeah,
world.
yeah. It's a gift to exist.
When you realize that when the grass looks really green and the flowers are brighter and the sky is bluer and the sky is grayer, like everything is more accented because you've walked to the edge and you've said, I'm done doing what I'm doing. I'm done being this. I'm done. I've had
Yeah,
enough of this, and I can't take it anymore. And it's really about, and that was my whole thing, is I can't bring me to the table anymore. I can't be me anymore. I need to die to who I am, because this thing that I am, this anger, this rage, this reactive shithead, can't live
yeah,
anymore. And I can't find it.
yeah,
And I'm still here,
yeah.
which tells me there's hope.
I used to always say, if I can't live with this version of myself, I don't want it to be the last. If I really cannot stand to live in this version of the
Mm,
myself, I don't want that to be the last of me. And I'm really glad I stuck by that.
that's beautiful.
I'm really glad I stuck by that because I've changed. Like I said, change
Yeah.
is inevitable, and I've changed, and I'm going to continue to change, and I'm going to become probably a person that I don't like for a second. That's just a part of growing up. There's going to be some bad shit ahead, but I'm excited to experience it.
Yeah.
I feed
Yeah.
off of learning. I feed off of growing. I feed off of, going through pain. I might be a little weirdly obsessed with going through some pain just because of the after effects of it, the wisdom that you get from it. So, yeah,
Well,
that
yeah,
excitement.
when you're on this side of it, when you're like, I think I have enough pain. I'm good with the wisdom I got. I'm good. Like, I don't want any more pain. But you're like, okay, all right, I just got to keep doing it. And I just got to keep moving forward. And there's still pain. And it's like, all right, I'm just, you become seasoned, and that's the beautiful thing. And as you grow, especially when you're younger, you get to formulate a foundation that makes you very, very formidable in your belief systems and in the pain and suffering that the world will offer, because it will bring it to you one way or the other. And so no, that's really good to hear you say that. And it's one of the things I think I see in you, and your gift is, like, you're not going to be defeated, even though you feel that defeat on maybe even on a regular basis. That's not where you're going to stay. And sometimes you lose the battle, but so far you're winning the war. And I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'd say the same to you. Same to you. I think we're both very resilient people, and I see eye to eye on you with a lot of things. So I appreciate hearing that from you. It means a lot. And I agree. I really agree. I do see myself as a resilient person. I'm not the most confident person, but I think I can be cocky when it comes to my resilience. I think I know that about myself. I've proved it many times.
Yeah.
I'm not scared that I'll lose that in the future. I think I'm learning to manage it, and will continue to. And like I said, the word privilege is going to come up a lot, but I feel very privileged with how motivated I am for staying alive. And that is I put 100% into that every day, and have for a long time, where it can be, draining and exhausting to the point where all of my motivation is going into that, to where I kind of lose motivation for daily tasks, or for, maintaining friendships or connections to my best abilities, or the ways I want to. But as long as I'm having that amount of motivation right now to stay alive, when I once just didn't have a drop of that, if that's where I am in life right now, I'm so grateful, and I can see that only turning into something beautiful. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that's who you're becoming, and that's what I see. And then, again, it's a matter of how you get that watered, and how you water that and nurture that plant that's about to blossom. And it's going to be cool to watch.
Yeah.
It's going to be really cool to watch, actually.
Thank you. I'm excited to watch it. That curiosity is there.
Yes.
Excited.
Yeah. So is there anything else about your story that you want to tell? Is there some significant things that you would like to pass on in this conversation that you would give to somebody like you? We haven't really talked about your diagnosis. We're going to do this again. So this may not be the full story, but we have quite the conversations going.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's part of my story. It's part of who I am. We feel these things, and it's important to feel these things. It's important to feel in a way that that you're strong.
Yeah.
And even though you cry or weep or lament, or that or you're white knuckling, you just have this strength about you that gets up off the ground no matter what. And that's the beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Like, that's what you want.
Yeah.
You should never be ashamed of that. Like, you saw me weep the other day. I'm like, we've never met, and I'm like, I'm just emotional today. Like, I'm like, I've heard some hard fucking stories lately, and
that
love me or leave me. I don't.
That vulnerability, though, then just made me feel so much safer in your presence. And I think that's something I need to take for myself. I get nervous to be that vulnerable around people. It's one of those things that I give advice about, but I can't take for myself. I have this weird fear where I connect with people who are that vulnerable. But then once I show it, for some reason, I'm trying to create almost this character that has survived through A, B, and C and is overcome and become this bright light that can shine that onto other people. And then I get nervous when I show, vulnerability or darkness that comes along with that it might take away from that title of survivor, even though I think that, gives someone even more of a, excuse to have that title, dealing with that daily.
Well, it's not an excuse. It's an honor to be able to have that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we don't really understand. It's an honor that I get to have the emotion and the depth of emotion that I do. It's an honor to be as empathic as I am.
Yeah.
It's an honor to suffer the way I've suffered.
Yeah.
Because it has made me and it continues to shape me into the man that I am sitting before you.
Exactly.
And that's not ego. That's saying I am made perfectly in the eyes of what I believe. And oh my God, how beautiful is that? Like, if I'm made perfectly, even in my suffering and the things that I've done and the things that have happened to me, and again, the things that I've done, I'm made perfectly.
That really sums up the main sole purpose as to why I'm so passionate about suicide prevention. And because the person that I lost, they felt so deeply, and they were the most amazing, brightest light, most just comforting, safe human being. But they felt so much, and they saw that as a disadvantage. And I think a lot of people, they feel so deeply and they see that as a disadvantage because it hurts to feel this deeply and to be this empathetic and to feel so strongly towards every little thing that happens in your life to the point where you can't take it anymore. But I'm so passionate about, honoring that within people and trying to prevent this, because that's what this world needs. People think that they don't deserve to live in this world. The world doesn't deserve people like this. We need more people like this. We can't lose more people like this. If you feel this way, I just wish more people would honor that within themselves, and they'll see it as an asset one day. I'm learning that it's an asset of mine. I know now that feeling these strong emotions works in my favor. It's not against me. It's for me. It allows me to have a plentiful life. It allows me to see life in such a beautiful way. And that's what I'm trying my best to just give to others and help them realize, is to honor all of those emotions and see that as such a gift,
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, and that's ultimately, I think that's what we're supposed to do with our suffering.
Yeah.
Is to find the gift in it. Because how else are you supposed to love people that are suffering if you don't understand them?
Right.
And some suffering is worse than others. But that seems like a greater calling to me.
Yeah.
To get better. It's like, why wouldn't? And it just makes more sense to me now. I mean, I've fought for life for so long, and now I'm on the other side of that, and I get to live it and enjoy it and transfer that and just be a part of that and watch the unfolding of how that happens.
Yeah.
Even in my own life and the struggles and the unknowns. And I mean, it's just this beautiful mystery and this beautiful adventure that I get to be part of.
Yeah, for sure. It is beautiful. I think what I've always seen that as such an exciting thing, but I think what I'm working on a lot recently is I feel so passionate about transferring that energy onto others and transferring that art I found within suffering onto other people and creating art from pain and creating wisdom from
Mm-hmm.
pain. I've become so obsessed with it to the point where I've started to not fully process pain when it comes. I had a nightmare the other night that kind of humbled me, where I was presented with the most just horrific, I don't know if it was some type of monster, some type of traumatic nightmare I was having. And immediately I pulled out a pen and paper and I was like, this is beautiful because this, or I'm going to learn from this by this, or this is happening to me because of this. And that's beautiful. And I love having that mindset, and it saved my life. But also it's made me suppress so much that I'm so focused on transferring that onto other people that I need to also, step out of the guilt that has made me feel the need to save others' lives and still honor that and do that when I can, but also focus on, the life that I'm also saving myself, and
Exactly.
process the pain, feel it, don't feel the instant need to overcome every single time you feel that pain presented to you. Sit with it, just sit with it for a second and then overcome. Patience, I guess. I need to work on that patience, the processing, not being so scared. Now that I'm not in survival mode, it's easier to sit and process things because it's not as scary. It's not as scary.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel fatal anymore to process emotions. It's not that instant distraction that I need to save my life. It's scary. It's scary having to finally process the dark and, realize, okay, so what am I going to do about this? How am I going to work around this? That's not taking my life, but yeah, it's overwhelming, but I feel privileged. Here I am again saying privilege, but I feel privileged to be able to sit with and process emotions instead of suppressing them out of survival. So that's where I am right now.
It is a privilege.
Yeah.
It is a privilege to be able to fight.
Yeah.
To stand up, to say, I've had enough, and I'm not going to give up, but I'm not going to do this anymore. And that is a privilege. It's a huge privilege. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because that is, it shows the strength in who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's, that privilege was given to you by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the beautiful thing of it.
Yeah.
There's a Sufi saying that I read. A friend gave me a book, and it's, it goes like this. It says, I went searching for God and only found myself. And I went searching for myself and only found God. We have the power within ourselves to change the course of our lives and the mindset that we choose right now. And it has nothing to do with ego or pride, or it has to do with dying to oneself and the things that happen to us, and saying, I'm glad that is what happened to me, because it's formed and shaped me into the person that I am today. And now I get to transfer that and be part of somebody else's life in a beautiful way that has no judgment for them, because I understand their suffering. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's a plant worth watering.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I love hearing you speak. Everything, I say this a lot, and I said this last time we talked, but you really hit the nail on what I need to hear and what a lot of people need to hear. I'm glad you're doing this. I'm really glad you're doing this.
So do you. I mean, you've had some really profound moments tonight that I'm not sure you realize, but like, your words are wisdom, even at your age. And we could say even at your age, but you have an old soul. So there's the aspect that you're finding who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
In a life of hardship and suffering. And you're finding joy in that. And I think that is a narrow road. I do. And however you put that in context, that very thing, when you embrace the suffering that you go through to to make you a better person so you can transfer it to other people. How much more love could that be than that?
Yeah.
That's worth talking about.
It is.
That's worth looking at, and that's worth being around. And that's where we should enter.
Yeah.
That's the door to life.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And you're part of that. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't feel as much pressure anymore. We keep talking about there's still a road to go down to find myself. I'm still becoming into myself. And I think a lot of people can see that as such a horrific thing that they put a lot of pressure on themselves for. But I see it as so exciting. And I kind of hope it takes a long time because I'm really enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I'm excited to meet myself in the future.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful statement because I finally met myself. And I'm like, wow, I like you.
Yeah.
I really do. Like all these insecurities and these fears and the world that you thought shaped you, they missed it. They missed you.
Yeah.
Because man, you're really, really a beautiful person. And I like that. It's not, I really don't see that as a bad thing. I'm like, you know what that does for me every day? It allows me to be with me. It allows me to be with this person that I used to hate.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's a new phenomenon. And I'd rather be here than there.
Exactly.
So if that's ego, I'd rather be here than there.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
I think I actually saw a quote on I was stalking your website, and I don't know who it was from, but they said it's hard to live with the person that wants to kill you every day. Is that right? What it is?
Yeah.
That
is my first episode and the inspiration for the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
She is one of my friends. I have a deep care and love for her. She's 23 now, I think, 24 maybe.
Really?
And yeah, she has been my heart and soul in a lot of this. So.
Well, I thought that was beautiful, so beautifully said.
It was fucking believable.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I was like, are you shitting me? That's the most beautiful statement ever. I was like, yeah, it is hard to live with me.
Yeah. How do you come to peace with that? But I think I finally am. So when I read that, I could see past versions of myself feeling just reassured and validated with everything they went through and how hard it was on them. And it's just nice now being able to live with the person in my brain that has kept me here and saved my life, in a sense, every single day. And being able to honor that and find new ways to honor that every day and grow more into that person is very exciting. But yeah, I love that quote.
Oh, it was great. It was so good. I was like, this is going to be a good thing.
I need to listen to that episode.
Yeah, she's good. I mean, we've both grown since then. She's 3 years after walking with her, and it's funny, borderlines are pretty consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, their highs are high and their lows are low, and sometimes they answer you and sometimes they don't. And I just was consistent with her, and I saw her smile for the first time in this bright light. And it's like there is hope, even for the worst of us, and the most detrimental, and the people that think they have no hope. There's hope.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what to do with it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. I feel very hopeful right now. I do. We started this off in a
And you
very,
should.
we started this off in a very, dramatic way, but towards the end, there was so much hope that I gained from it, and I feel very good. I don't want
Good.
this conversation to end. I
Good.
feel like we could touch on everything and I could speak.
Well, we got other things to talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
this conversation actually, if things go well, will continue over many different avenues.
Yeah.
So don't worry. I mean, we're just on the iceberg.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's the tip.
Yeah.
So
The hard stuff's out of the way. The basic.
yeah, and I mean we'll piece some of this together, but
Mhm.
honestly, the conversation is good. It's just really, if you're okay with publishing, I'll stitch it together and it'll be beautiful.
Yeah. I'm very, very
So
okay with that. 1,000,000%.
yeah,
I think.
and I'll try to send you a link and stuff like that so you have an idea of what it looks like.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. That would be so perfect. I know it'll
Yeah.
reach someone and mean something to them. It's hard to.
When it's not, I reduced all my expectations.
Yeah.
It's like if I can talk to the masses and reach the one, I've done
Exactly.
more than I ever thought I would do.
Exactly.
And I've done way more than I ever thought I would do.
Yeah.
Way more than I ever considered or fathomed or dreamed or could conceive.
Mm-hmm.
And just the people that have stayed alive just because of the shit that I went through. I'm just like, this is unbelievable.
Right.
And it's not because of me. It's because I get to observe
Yeah.
the beauty in what I've been molded into. And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah. Me too.
And I think that's who you are. I think that's really who you are.
It really is. It's, sometimes it's hard for me to process getting, telling my story online and documenting my recovery online. It's really difficult for me to comprehend anybody saying that that story has saved their life or made them want to live another day. It's something I don't think I'll ever fully be able to comprehend, but it's kept.
You don't want to.
I know.
You know why you don't want to comprehend it? Because that's what keeps you humble. That's what keeps you saying, I'm the observer, and yeah, this shit happened to me, and my narrative's different now. But look what this story did for somebody.
Yeah.
And how beautiful is that? And I'm glad this happened to me because now I get to sit back in my lawn chair and watch this person's life unfold because mine helped them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
And there's a lot of moments where, doing this and being a part of this conversation for so long, I've wanted to just stop because it takes a toll on you sometimes. I think being so invested in this company, not company, in this community, but that just hearing that one voice, just seeing one comment, there's so much reasoning behind what I'm doing, and I can't ever stop doing that. And I'm always every day just searching for any other way I could possibly just provide that.
You know how you'll find it? You want to know how you'll find it?
How?
When you rest.
You're right. You're right. That's actually what I'm doing recently. I think we talked about this last conversation where I felt a bit of a creative block. I've stopped showing up as much as I wanted to in the community over the past couple of months because I'm allowing myself to rest and process my story right now so I can show up better in the future. And that'll work out in everyone else's favor a lot more if I give myself a second to.
Well, it honestly, it works out in your favor because then you become you have more bandwidth to last longer.
Yeah.
And what that means and what that equates to is I don't need to recharge all the time, even though people are trying to weigh me down. It's like I can throw that negative shit off more and more and more and easier and easier. It's like that story I was telling you, like my buddy John. I'm like the 9/11 survivor. How do I shed this? And I'm like, well, it didn't have any place to hold. Now I can talk to you about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, wow, my buddy went through the most horrific thing that I've ever heard in my life. And he's got the softest heart of a man that I've ever seen. And how beautiful is that? Like, do I still have the visuals? Do I still have some of the sadness and that? But yeah, did it get a hold? No, because it didn't. You know why it didn't get a hold? Because I'm not angry about it. And I understand the pain and the suffering and the dying and the blood and the guts and the all of it. And we live in a hard world.
Yeah.
We just do.
Yeah.
And so how do we take our suffering and make it better? And that's what you're doing. So
Thank you.
you can't ask for a better purpose than that. You cannot.
I agree.
Well, is there anything else you want to add to this? Any advice? What's the most profound thing you've learned? That's where we're at through this process for yourself.
You know what I think?
What's been the most life-changing? Go ahead.
I think I said it actually already. I think I said it when I came back. About feeling so deeply how important that is and how that is one of your biggest assets, and how I think people that feel that deeply are the people that this world needs, and that you'll find your outlet for it, and you'll find a way to, make it work for it in your advantage, even if it takes time, patience. Yeah. But yeah, what I said about that is what I wanted to say. But
okay, good. Yeah.